Hey, this is Krystal. Welcome back for Therapy to Empower Hour.
Mind right, game tight, elevate your mind sight. These interviews will ignite your insight. Take notice of the lessons we learned. Why? So you can focus on shining your light bright. We share our greatness and we're courageous. Listen closely because it is contagious. Hit the subscribe. The show's worldwide. Keep an open mind and treasure yourself to shine.
Hi, welcome everybody to another episode of the Mind Right Game Tight Show, Therapy to Empower Hour edition. I'm your host, Michelle Morgan. I'm a transformational sports coach, which means I work with student athletes on the mental mindset that happens while we're in sports and in life. I'm also the founder of the nonprofit Vida Soto. Vida Soto is dedicated to empowering our young adults through the Mind Right Game Tight program curriculum that I created, which consists of 2 books, How You Triumph in Sports, Tools to Create a Triumphant Life, the book and the workbook. The book has all the different life skills that we're learning, such as being coachable, accountable, goal setting, our self-value and our self-worth. And then the workbook has all the exercises. So we got all the knowledge in the book, and then we have the empowerment with the exercise because we got to take action. And so also, you can listen to any previous episodes on YouTube at www.mindrightgametight.com or your favorite podcast format, which is Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts. You just got to type in Mind Right Game Tight. And today we continue in with the Therapy to Empower Hour with our guest, Krystal Williams. Krystal Williams is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she has her own practice called Therapy to Empower, hence the title of our show. And today we're going to be talking about letting go of the diet mindset. So I know we kind of talked about the cycle of dieting, and because this is so layered and so interesting, I've been learning so much from you, Krystal. Now we're going to go into the mindset of dieting, which I feel like, whew, I mean, I just keeps getting better and better, but I see all the learning that I'm doing, and I hope everyone else out there is getting a lot of information as well, because it really is impactful, not only how I look at myself and treat myself, but also like how I respond to others as well.
Yeah, I'm glad it's been impactful to you because it totally has transformed my life. Letting go of diet mindset. So any way I can help with this,
well, speaking of like you having to let go of like the diet mindset, what has been your journey to kind of get you to like where you're at along where you're at right now? Like, how did that start? When did you start learning about letting go of the diet mindset?
I remember, I think it was probably like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. I was on my way to work and I was listening to a podcast called Therapy Den or something in regards to that. Anyways, so on the podcast that they had a guest, which was Be Nourished. It is a 2 therapists who talks a lot about trusting your body, letting go of diet mindset, and things of that nature. So I was first introduced to this idea of like health at every size, anti-diet, about like 6 years ago. And I'm kind of listening. I'm like, oh, wow, like this is an interesting concept. I never even considered this. And at the time, I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, that's great and all. And I'll just hold it, in the back of my head. So I was just kind of like, okay. And I end up like, kind of subscribing to their newsletter. And it was Be Nourished, but I think they changed the name or rebranded themselves to Body Trust. It's a really great place. If you get on their bodytrust.org or benourished.org, it's amazing. And so I'm learning a little bit more in their newsletter, and I'm just kind of like, okay. I'm still dieting. I'm still doing all of that particular stuff. I'm just kind of like, oh, it's here. It's kind of in the background. Then it came to a point where, with any diet that I've been a part of, it's always been you take your before picture and you take your after picture. And I remember scrolling through my gallery on my phone, and I was like looking at how many before pictures was there. and how many there was no after pictures. I just kept saying before, because I went through this loop of like, okay, this time it's going to be better. I'm going to get that body, right? And then after a while I said, you know what? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to take any more before pictures. I don't want to take any more after pictures. I don't want to do this anymore. And that moment is when I had said, I don't want to go on a diet anymore. I don't want to do it, but I'm stuck and I don't know, what does that mean if I don't go on a diet? So I literally, I was in Sedona with my wife, and I don't know if anybody's ever been to Sedona before. That was my first time ever going. And I felt like I had like this meltdown, and where I was just like, I got to get this together. I have to figure this out. So I literally looked on therapyden.com, which is a therapist directory that I went on, and I found a therapist that specifically specialized in or had the lens of anti-diet, health at every size. My therapist is amazing. She is an athlete. She's also, her background is in nutrition. And so I was like, this is the person for me. And so a lot of her teaching has really helped me just further understand like my thoughts, my feelings, that kind of pulls me into the direction of diet mindset, as well as me taking some training specifically from that that organization I was telling you about, Body Trust, Be Nourished, is pretty much the same. And so I started to learn a little bit more, and it has been quite a journey. There has been like some ups and downs. It has been some parts where I'm like, so if I'm going to do this whole no diet thing, like I get it, but does that mean that I can't want to lose weight? Right? Like it was like, and I remember going to my therapist about that, like constantly. I'm just like, so am I not supposed to want to lose weight? Is that the end goal? Like what, like, because I am having these thoughts, like, is that okay? Right? Like it was a lot of questioning that was happening. There was a lot of grieving that was happening. There was a lot of learning how to trust my body again. And so that has been transformative when, again, I'm not preoccupied, fast forward years later, I am not so preoccupied by what other people think about me and my body. And I'm not letting my size kind of dictate the activities that I do or what I wear. And I'm less kind of like reliant on external like kind of definitions on what quote unquote normal eating is, you know? And so for that, it has transformed my life, but it has been quite a journey to get to where I am right now in this kind of like sense of acceptance.
Okay, so just so y'all know, we got a PowerPoint for us visual learners like that I am. But first, I want to just kind of go back to like what you were talking about, because when you first heard about like health at every size, when you first heard that, did it take like how long did it take to from hearing it to Sedona? Was that 6 years or was there time in between there?
Oh, it was probably like 4 years later.
Okay, so 4 years later. And so when you first heard that like episode, were you like, well, that's not me? Or what was that going on through you where you're like, I don't resonate with this, like what they're talking about?
I honestly resonate with some of the ways on how diet culture really does put you in that cycle that we were talking about before. And I'm like, yeah, relatable, 100%. Or feeling like my body's not good enough, or that, certain phrases of like, when I get that 6-pack, then I can wear that 2-piece. Right. And so there were certain things that they were communicating that I was just kind of like, wow, that really does resonate. Looking back at it, it's like it resonated, but I wasn't ready to fully invest in what that perspective shift. Right. I was not
Mhm.
ready for that. So it was, yes, it's there, but I'm not really ready to really fully take on what it means to really trust your body. And obviously was still there. I was curious because I still went on the newsletter. I'm like, oh, let me just kind of keep them around, right? Let me kind of, so there was something that was kind of telling me there, even though I wasn't kind of nurturing it, there was seeds that was still
Mhm.
being planted like throughout my life, throughout the last like 6 years. You know what I mean? And so to where maybe subconsciously I knew that the way I was living my life and how I viewed my food and how I viewed my body was not in the long run healthy.
Mhm.
And um so yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I guess it's always like interesting to me to, not even just you or me, like we all experience something where we heard it, but it doesn't like
Yeah,
necessarily register until like at whatever point that is. And so I was
yeah,
just curious as to your journey because I also feel like sometimes I can listen and it's like, oh man, but like how long did it take? Not to compare, but just learn that everybody's on their own stage of the
yeah.
process of what that looks like. And then also with the picture taking, you know,
Mm,
I think that's like also important to like talk about because that is a part of a lot of challenges, right? Like even
for
like
sure.
big weight loss challenges, it's always like the before and after. And to be honest, I mean, at least for me, it's like it's a way to sell the product or whatever it is, right? Like we've been seeing those
Mhm.
infomercials since we were kids,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
we're like, no way.
Yeah.
So, but that's how you get me to say, oh wow, that person did it at that and they got here, whatever the time frame is, then that's what's going to get me in.
Yeah.
That's what's the sell, right? So when were tired, you were noticing that you didn't see any after pictures. Was that was like your breaking point? And what made you feel like, well, let me try it, not try. Let me try one more time because
I
it
feel
sounds
like
like you were trying, one more time. And then what
I
was
was
this time? It
always
was
trying one more time. It was always kind of like that loop of like, tomorrow's going to be the day. Tomorrow's
Mhm,
going to be the day where I just change all of my behaviors and that I am going to, this is going to be the diet that actually really works for me and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when I was looking at, I'm like, yo, shit, like I took a lot of before pictures and there's no after. So what is that trying to tell me? Because you don't want
mm,
to go on no diet. You don't want to do that.
mm,
You genuinely do not want to put your body and your mind through it again, right? And this idea of like tomorrow is going to be the day that I am good, quote,
mhm,
right? And knowing how harmful that was and how shameful that was, right? It put me in this space of like, I'm not good enough. I don't have the dedication, the willpower to be able to muster this through. And in the long term, that's unhelpful for me health wise, right? If we really kind of break down health, right? That's really unhelpful for healthy for me. And I think with anyone having that sense of criticism to yourself, that's a lot of stress on the body.
mhm,
And so I'm like, I don't want to do this and I can no longer do this anymore. I can't put myself through this. And so a part of the process, the first step that I took is I literally deleted all of my before pictures,
mm,
all of them. Just did a purge in my phone. I said, I don't want to see myself in this space to where I'm comparing myself and criticizing my body like this, right? Even just that energy in my phone is a lot. And
mhm,
so I'm like, mm-mm, right? It's not like it's an older picture that I've taken with friends or things of that nature. It's like, no, this body was specifically saying this is not good enough,
mm,
right? And so I had to purge that from my phone. And that was kind of the first step for me before I even found a therapist or anything like that. I was just like, okay, I need to get rid of these pictures. It's the first thing I can do because
mm.
they're not helpful when I see it.
Yeah, and just listening to you talk about those pictures, like I've done that, and just even being able to look at your pictures and saying I didn't think I was good enough. It's like, man, like I'm thinking about myself right now and saying like, yeah, like I didn't think my body was good enough before that to go on this vacation.
For
Like
sure.
I would call it like my Dyna body, right? So it's
Mhm,
like
mhm,
my
mhm.
vacation before that
Right, right.
wasn't worth wearing
Yeah,
my bikini at Dinah Shore.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, thank you.
Mhm, mhm.
Because I feel like it's so valuable for me just to recognize that and be
For
like, wow,
sure.
that's what I said. And I've done the before and afters. And even when I do the before and afters, it's always like, and I can go back to it and be like, man, I wish I was torturing myself, or, but it doesn't necessarily, I can't say that I've looked at it before or an after picture saying like, wow, it's like, look how far you came. It's more like, oh man, like, why can't I get back there? Or, oh, I need to get back to that. I can't
Right,
say I've been empowered by it now that I think about it.
right, right.
Yeah.
100%. And you can see how unhelpful that is. And it puts you back in kind of like this shame spiral, right? And so that was something where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I
Mhm.
cannot put my body and mentally put myself through that anymore. I have to find a way to where I'm not looking at my body as this a moral compass of like whether it's good enough or it's bad enough, or it's good or bad, sorry. Um and where it is dictating my worth and it's dictating the activities that I do and the clothes that I wear, you
Mm.
know? And so I don't want to do that. I said
Yeah.
I made a decision. I literally made a decision that I will not do this anymore. And that was obviously years later from when I was even introduced to the concept of what we're talking about now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and start to share the
Oh
PowerPoint,
yeah.
but just going back into so much of like mindset. And I feel like I can speak for myself when I think of like getting to a vacation body or whatever it is. I really don't think I think about my mindset in it. It's more
Yeah.
like task that I do. And I don't think, what's my mindset going into this? How do I feel about myself? Um, so it's very
Yeah.
interesting to be able to reflect and recognize, letting go of the diet mindset.
Absolutely. And you think about it like even when you actually get that Dyna body, you're still picking it apart and still thinking that it's not good enough.
Hmm.
Right? And still like, okay, well, then there's another after. That's the before. Now there's going to be another after that. Right? And
Hmm.
so, yeah, it's just kind of like, it's really just unhelpful in the long term. And that's, I stopped doing that.
I guess just to relate, like I want to share this comment is those pictures can be my worst enemy. Our body is supposed to change. I want to accept it as it is at every stage, right?
Right?
And those
Right.
stages look different for all of us.
100%. And I think we'll get to the messages too,
Hmm.
into the slides because that plays a huge part in it too. When you talk about like age, right? Like
Mm.
our bodies change and thinking about the messages that we receive when we get older. And so, yeah, but we'll get to it.
Or even how more seasoned people talk to younger people.
Yeah.
Like it's almost
Mhm.
like you got it good now. Like it's like beware. Trouble, rough
Right?
waters are up ahead.
Honey, yes, be good because after this age, you're not going to be as perky or as tight anymore, right? Them things is going to go left and right? And it's just kind of like, huh? Right? So people are already making assessments on your body,
Right.
you know?
That's so true.
So,
Like I'm already looking at your body as something right now
yeah.
and analyzing it regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like there's no empowerment. It's almost like I'm analyzing you and I'm either
Yeah.
giving you props or I'm like, well, you might want to. So, but anyways, let me get into the
Yeah.
slides. All right.
So, speaking of when you talked about like how did I kind of when I let go of diet culture, when I made that promise to myself, I just said, listen, I'm going to make a promise to myself that I'm not going to go on a diet anymore because It's just unhelpful for me. And so let me go get a therapist that specializes in this stuff. Two, I want to do my own research and training and get even more familiar with this whole idea. What's this movement? What is this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I participated in a training by this lady, Judith Mays. She was the one who facilitated the training. But this is a card deck, and I believe this is something that you can get on Amazon. I don't think you have to go to her specific training in order to get these cards. I bought it from her. And so this is Making Peace with Food card deck. It has 59 anti-diet strategies to end chronic dieting and find joy with food. She also has another card deck, which I purchased. It is the Body Positivity card deck. 53 strategies for building for body acceptance, appreciation, and respect, right? So she has another one. But for right now, we're talking about food. And so in this particular card deck, she has divided it into 7 sections. And we're only going to go through one of the 7 sections. And the first section that we're going to go through is letting go of the diet mindset in order to kind of continue to facilitate what we talked about last time. Mm-hmm. And this slide right here, it's really talking a lot about, when we actually get into a diet and it works, but it works very short term. And recognizing that, I believe on here, short term, there's around 95% chance that the results won't last in the long term, right? So there's literally only a 5% chance that this will actually last long term, longer than 5 years, even longer than 3 for some. And for most of us, we will look at and we'll get into a diet, and we talked about the diet cycle. We get to a diet like, whoa, like I lost all this weight, I feel good, or all the different messages that you've told yourself in that moment. And then what happens, because we've been restricting for so long, our body looks at that as, yo, you've been starving me. You better feed me now, right? And so here comes the binging. Here comes the I'm just going to eat, right? And most folks ends up gaining all of their weight back, and sometimes more than that, right? And so oftentimes we start to shame ourselves. It's me. I'm the problem, right? It's because of me that I let it go, quote unquote, right? And so we have to really understand that these diets, literally statistically, is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So if you think about how many diets that you've been on, how many have you been on? I've been on like 20 different diets within my lifetime, right? 20, probably even more than that. So 20 more than that. How much money am I spending on these particular diets, right? And so oftentimes we blame ourselves, but this is an industry. This is how it works. I need you to purchase my products. I need you to believe that you need me to get there, right? And so this right here is just basically saying you're not failing your diet is failing you, period, right? And so one of the questions that it is saying on here, it says, I hope I'm trying to read it a little bit closer. So imagine your doctor offered a medication that had a 5% chance of working. If you took it but didn't get better, would you blame yourself? And would you try the same medication again?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be blaming myself for it.
Right? Come on.
Right. And I probably wouldn't be taking it again. But I mean, it's so great that it's put into these terms, because I feel like at the same time, it's like, I mean, you see those infomercials for whatever it is, and like the small print or the really fast part at the end is like, if you have blah, 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 do not take or consult your doctor, things like that, right? And so it just reminds me that these 5 print is never mentioned, like 95% chance it's not going to work, right? And so
why would they mention that?
I mean, of course, why would they mention that? But it's just kind of like, it's interesting because it's like we are yet in it and we don't even realize it ourselves.
Yeah.
So I feel like that goes back into like the mindset too, right? Because like we're not even aware, even if I've done 20 diets or 1 or 2 or 3, whatever the number is, it's like I still haven't brought that awareness that it's not my fault.
It's not you.
It
right?
is my fault. Like that's how I feel. Like I could have done better. I could have gone harder. That one time I had my cheat meal, that's what messed me up. I should never have ate that at the wedding. Whatever it is,
For sure.
I'll just beat myself up over it, and then it's like, okay, but I can try it again because I was doing so good.
Yeah. Just thinking about how marketing operates off of your insecurity. You know what I mean? So I'm making money off of your insecurity a little bit, right? And so when we kind of take a step back and we kind of look at the big picture, right? Like if we remove ourselves from the situation, remove ourselves and kind of really kind of look at what's happening here, then we can, now we're talking about like, how can you use that information to stop feeling shame? I can stop to blame myself, right? I can really stop to blame myself and thinking that something's wrong with me, that, I'm gaining this weight back. No, that's what it's supposed to do, because you're investing in a particular diet that does not work long term. And folks will say, well, yeah, I did lose weight, like it worked. Yes, but what did it cost you? Really, what did it cost you to lose that weight? And how long do you think you will keep that off? And like, say if you do keep it off for a year or even 2 years, when you start to gain that weight back, what do you think happens next to you mentally and physically? Right? And so you kind of have to look at those things. So this is a part of a card deck as well. Obviously, you can see that's on there.
I love that. And I can think about what it's cost me. Like I think back to when I did my Dynabody, and it was like there was an annual event that me and my coworkers would go to, and we were always excited because they gave out breakfast burritos. And that year I did not eat my breakfast burrito. So it's like I gave up things that I enjoyed. Like I enjoyed having breakfast burritos from this particular restaurant who caters this event. And it was like I gave up joy. That's what I gave up.
For sure. Right? Right. It's really, it's costing you. And how is that beneficial for you in the long run? This right here is talking about messages. And I think this is a little bit of kind of what we, discussed from the last time, are the messages that we actually receive when we talked about inside voice versus outside voice. Right. And so it says, this is basically an activity that folks can do on their own, where it says, make a list of at least 5 messages you've been given by your family, the media, friends, health professionals, and others who promote the diet mindset. Yeah. Could you think of some?
I mean, I feel like for me, the messaging is like the reminder of like you don't matter because you're in a small body. I think, that to me is I'm trying to think of like, I've had comments like, oh, you're thicker now. Or, I mean, I like curves, but then there's also like, you're losing your curves. So it's not even about gain. It could also be about loss too.
For sure.
And I think those messages go both ways at the same time. Like, ooh, like your face looks like thinner, or your cheeks look chubbier. They're all like subtle messages,
right,
that I've received. But when I hear them, I perk up because, hey, you're talking about my body. So I become very aware and like, oh shoot. Like, and then right as soon as I go home or get in the car, I'm figuring out, what do I have to start doing tomorrow?
Yeah. Right. Go back to shame. Something's wrong with me. That is kind of really rooted in like the bigger picture of like how these messages of fat phobia or anti-fatness. Right. And so again, bigger picture, right, of where these messages are coming from as well. I've heard people say that, like, you know, or parents constantly or caregivers constantly going on like a million and one diets. Heard people say, like, you know, you're going to die if you don't either lose or even sometimes even just gain weight altogether. Or that stubborn belly fat, you know, that's there. Only seeing, you know, thin, maybe white individuals on TV or on the media, where you're not necessarily seeing people in all different shapes and sizes on the media. Always, I don't know if you I encourage people. I want you to watch a show. Watch a show, and I want you to tally how many weight loss ads that they are throughout the times that you're watching the show, right? Or where your body is even represented on the screen, right? Oh, I've had a client tell me that they received a message from a caregiver that no one will date you if you're fat, so you need to lose weight now, right? And so all these particular messages that happen, you know.
Yeah. I can actually think of one that comes to my mind as you were speaking, is your BMI is too high. And that's coming when I used to do my physicals a lot more, like playing sports. Well, I still do my annuals, but anyways, like focus more on the BMI scale. And I'm short. So my BMI is always supposed to be very low because of my height. But yet that scale never took into account that, you know, I was a competitive athlete at the time. I'm lifting weights, I'm building muscle and all sorts of things. But that little chart is telling me I'm too big for my size and I need to lose weight. So I can think of that. And it had to be actually teammates of mine and say, like, yeah, but you have muscle. Like, don't let that bother you. Don't let that get to you. And so I couldn't even recognize I have muscle, because at that time, I don't even think I was like paying attention to, like, even if I have muscle, I still don't see it. Like, you know, I'm just hearing the messages that I'm receiving in terms of, like, you're too big for your height. Your BMI is too high. You need to bring that down. But it was never like, do you even know any of my background as to, like, why I'm here or anything, you know?
But do you even see too that where you even going internally and you're trying to justify your body when the BMI is flawed AF?
Yeah.
Flawed. I don't even know why we were still using that, right? Or why the medical industry is still using that flawed measuring tool. I'm not sure why. I probably insurance, possibly, you know what I mean? Haven't found any other type of measuring tool if that's even necessary. So, right, like we automatically kind of go inward. Well, let me tell you about my life. Let me tell you But overall, like, why are you using that tool? Right? And so, again, just something to consider, just for the audience as well.
Before you go into the next part, I want to just share this comment too, because it goes in terms of like the messages that we receive. So messages I receive come from sizes at the mall. One size makes me feel fat and another can make me feel like I'm skinny. It's confusing.
Yeah, right. I think that's so true. Just thinking about kind of the fashion industry and how that is, you know, they, it is confusing. I would 100% agree with you when it comes to that. It really, really is confusing and creates, again, like these particular messages that are really unhelpful and harmful ultimately sometimes, you know, or certain brands that don't, that only stop at a certain size. They're like, oh, we're only stopping at a size 4, right? And so you're like, oh, okay. So my body's an issue here at this particular store. Okay, got you. Right. And so the fashion industry also has some catching up to do too.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely say that. It's like, I have to try it on because I don't know, but I understand how that can play with my emotions. If, you know, I went to this store and I had on this size and then 2 weeks later on this, and it's like, it kind of, once again goes back into the mindset. Like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing wrong these last couple of weeks? And tonight when I get home from the store or the mall, something's changing.
Absolutely. Right. Right. And so thinking about like what triggers you to go back into that diet mindset, right? Like really what activates you that goes into it. And so when you are letting go of it, that's something to be aware of, right? Because that has been your go-to. And kind of steering away from it can be extremely, extremely hard, right? And this is why I always encourage folks to either do their research or going to see a therapist or some type of healer that understands this particular perspective. Even nutritionists that are out there, or even fitness coaches specifically that understands about anti-diet and health at every size or body trust perspective will put you in a really, really great direction, guide you there through it.
Yeah. And I know we want to go on to the next section, but I just had another thought. It's just about the awareness. The ads that do like home video workouts and things like that. Like there was an ad on my phone today after I did something. And it's like, you can do this from your bed. You can do this. It's so simple. And it's like, well, why does everybody have a six? Like everyone's super, super like,
right.
So it's like,
thank you.
Where are the people in all shapes and sizes doing this workout? Because also when I watch you do it, you're like, well, I know for me, oh, I need to go harder. I need to lift heavier. You know, like, oh my gosh, you know, so it's just like those workout videos. It's like, why isn't every size and shape represented in those videos? Because we only see one look.
Yeah, exactly. Why is it that? And like, you can get a six-pack just like me. Or like, you're like, huh? What? Or this idea of like when folks are even just like workout videos, I look at them all the time and I'm just starting to see certain different sizes represented to where they're the lead and not the modifier. I don't know if you've noticed that too.
Yep, they're the modifier. Right? This is, you can do it this way. It's okay.
You can do it this way. If you're in this body size, if you look like that, you are the modifier. Why is that?
Yeah.
So you're saying that someone who's in that body size can't do a headstand or can't do a side plank? I'm in yoga. I mean, you know, I teach yoga. So it's just kind of like, right, like you kind of have to think about that for a little bit. What's the messaging here?
And so how long has that messaging been happening where now I think once I have the option, I'm modifier. Like I don't even try the regular way. Automatically, I'm straight to modifier. Yeah. You know, oh, that's me. I got to go to modifier. I won't even try that other way because I know they're already telling me that's not for me. I got to start at a lower level. Like I got to go here. I got to modify.
100%. Again, we're looking at these messages that is there. And again, I am barely starting to see people who are instructing have, you know, a range of like different type of body types, right? And so barely, and that's probably like one or two programmings that I actually see, but we got some work to do.
Okay, and I'm not going to stop you anymore for this slide. So
no, you're good. You're good. You are totally good. We are flowing here. We are flowing. It all works. I'm looking at the slide on my thing too. Well, the next question it goes along with the message is make a list of at least 3 messages you give to others that promotes diet mindset. So there's one thing to where you're receiving it, but where are you actually giving to other people that promotes diet mindset?
Oh gosh, the reflection, man. I'm that person. I've been that person. And now that I've had these conversations with you and understanding more, even a little bit prior through my own like experience with talking things out in therapy, it's just like, man, that doesn't feel good to know I've been on that side.
Right? Because we've all been, I guess, conditioned to do it until you step away from it and you're like, oh, I can see how that could actually be kind of harmful. And I think, we've talked about, I think we may have talked about either this one-on-one or in the last one, where one of the messages that we could be, we give to other, and when we compliment their bodies, you know what I mean? When we're like, oh, what did I say? Like, oh, you look great. Keep up the good work. Right. And so whenever they're kind of on a diet, or if they say, oh yeah, I'm on a diet, I'm on keto or something like that, whatever diet that they're on. And like, yeah, I lost like 5 pounds, or you can physically see it on their bodies. You're complimenting that. Right. So that's the same thing as promoting diet mindset. And I've shared this either with you personally or the last one, I can't remember. It's like, you don't even know what you're complimenting. You could be complimenting an eating disorder. You could be complimenting a health issue that's happening, right? You could be complimenting shame. And so that's how you're kind of promoting it. I also said this, when you are making comments about your body, I have heard this the other day, and this is maybe in addition to the comparison that we were talking about last time. It's like when you are making judgments and criticizing your own body, especially in front of others, you are giving the other person an invitation to assess their own bodies. Giving an invitation for them to assess. Right? So
it's like I'm inviting everybody. Go home tonight and figure out what you need to do better. It's like, wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
Because we just think it's about us, and it's like, oh, well, you just reminded me, actually, now that you're saying that.
Yeah.
Like, no, literally, like, we're in an environment, and you're talking about what you got to do better, and now you're like, oh shoot, you're reminding me about what I need to do better, or about that thing. Oh, okay. So now I'm internalizing it while you're talking, like, oh yeah, I can do better. Oh, you're doing keto? What can I do then? Okay, how does that keto thing work? Now I'm in your business because you've triggered that in me about what I need, what I should be doing. So I'm like, okay, so tell me about keto, because like, I need to do something. I need to start again.
And then this is where also kind of ignites that comparison too, because now I'm looking at you and you're saying like, oh my gosh, like, when I lose this stubborn belly fat, then I can get into a 2-piece. But I have like rolls on my back, and I have like a belly. So now I'm like, so now you're criticizing yourself for having a belly, but I have 2 plus some on my back. Right. And so it's like, so what are you saying about me? And then now I'm comparing myself, but wait, why are you tripping? Because I'm the one who have, right. And ultimately, I just think that what if we just didn't comment on our bodies altogether? Right. And what if we were in a space to where we can acknowledge ourselves of where we're at? Like, yeah, this is, again, not being preoccupied by what other people think, or seeing that, having that, again, one of those messages of stubborn belly fat, right? That's there. Where is that actually rooted in? Excuse me, just 1 second.
Yeah. This has been a great conversation. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. This is deep, but it's also very empowering at the same time to be able to reflect and see, just share our own feelings and reflect on like how we feel for ourselves. And really it's about what you feel and what you think. And, how can I start to incorporate this? Not saying it has to happen all at once, but man, what part so far is resonating with you, for yourself?
Yeah. Another thing that I remember hearing and seeing of how or an example of like, how have you given to others? I've heard when people like look at someone's plate, like, you're going to eat all that? And so that right there, again, diet mindset. So I have to monitor my food. One, what's wrong with the amount that I have? If I'm looking at the amount that I put on my plate, I'm assessing and looking at like, hey, but I think this amount is going to satisfy me. But for some reason, that amount is not good enough, right? Or it's bad. right? And so that's another way that I could be potentially promoting diet mindset just to other people, you know?
Mm. Yeah, I've been on both sides of that one. I've been the
Yeah,
person to say that, and I've been told that as well.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Um,
Or
um,
even I don't
uh,
say it, I think it,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
also part of the cycle as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, particular messages. I remember when someone had said this to me personally, but this could be one of those things. What you have given to other is, if you didn't work out so much, you'd be as big as a house. And
Oh gosh.
so that can be again something either a part of the messages that I receive, or that's something that you could be telling people, right? When
Mm.
again, you're taking in your again assessing their food intake and you're looking at their body and stuff like that, right? And so that could just be some examples of how you could potentially be spreading these or promoting the diet mindset, and you can see how unhelpful that can be.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes. Like this comment says, the language is so important, not only for ourselves, but for other people too, as well. So,
yeah,
woo, it's deep.
yeah,
But we have a slide to kind of help us like start to move past that and
yeah,
enhance our language on how we speak about ourselves and about others as well. So, like you mentioned, oh, someone says they're, doing some type of dieting, or maybe I haven't seen you in a while and I'm like, oh my gosh, you look good. Uh, I don't know. Sometimes does that mean like you look good because you look thin, or like, yeah, you look good? Like, I don't know. It could be hidden. But like you said, not necessarily focusing on someone's body and how I compliment them, right? And looking at character traits as a way. So,
yeah. These are just another way of how you can compliment somebody except for complimenting on their body. And I would bet on assume that if I know that I have lost some weight, then if someone has says I look good, then they're referring to my body. This is the first time I haven't said anything, right? And so, or anything like that. And I say that too because I don't know if we'll have time to talk about the grieving process when you are going into diet mindset, but people give you a lot of compliments when you're on a
mhm.
diet. People give you a lot of compliments when you lose weight. They're really focusing on your body. And so this is just an invitation with a list of characteristics of like, well, what if I complimented them on something else? Right? Like, wow, you're so active. Wow, you're pretty calm. Wow, you're giving like that this really peaceful energy right now. Super radiant. I can kind of feel a little bit of a glow that's happening in your what's happening in your world right now, you
Mhm.
know? Um, looking lively, some other stuff that is kind of on here, um, um, and things of that nature, right? Certain things that can just be helpful to where you can either compliment or have certain discussions or changing your language a little bit of how you are talking or identifying people with it outside of just their bodies, right? Like, I'd be
Mhm.
like, your eyebrows are on point, and girl, you look great. You know what I mean? And so outside of like kind of like their size and stuff, I just being mindful of those things.
Yeah, I definitely like this list. Thank you for sharing this. So
Mhm.
if you're listening, like go ahead and take a screenshot, whether if it's on YouTube or Google, list of character traits, and start to keep some in your pocket, and also start to use them for yourself. But see how
Yeah.
others react to when you use words like we're not used to saying, like, man, you look radiant.
Yeah.
What? Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. But that makes me feel good. Like you're telling me I look radiant, you like my
Yeah.
eyebrows,
Mhm.
whatever. I'm smart. Oh, I'm so happy. You look happy
Yeah.
right now. Whatever that looks like, or going with the flow with the conversation. I think it's very, very, I don't think. I know it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And just changing our language, which in terms is like changing the mindset that we have around things, this diet mindset as well.
For sure. And just this last slide, when it talks about attuned eating versus diet mindset, and we talked about attuned eating last time, where we're starting to kind of look inward and we're noticing kind of hunger cues and what we're feeling, And when we get into that space, we can recognize that we feel a little bit more empowered. We feel more in control. When you are on a diet, I speak for myself and other clients that I've worked with, you kind of feel like this out of control feeling where there's food right in front of you and you're like, I gotta finish it. I have to, or being afraid of it, right? Right. Or feeling that kind of like that shame that comes when you are with the diet mindset. And when folks really do adopt, specifically when they shift out of letting go of diet mindset, they incorporate attuned eating, which has been really beneficial for a lot of my clients, and been beneficial for me personally. And so where you're able to recognize cues versus instead of looking at the clock, right? Be like, oh yeah, it's 1 o'clock, I have to eat, versus me checking in with my body, but I'm not hungry, or like I am hungry. That's true right there, right? It's a little bit more flexible here versus very rigid when it comes to diet culture, depending on the type of diets that you're on. It's like, nope, you can't eat that. Yes, you can't eat that. That is bad for you. That's good for you. Versus when you're attuned eating, you are giving an invitation or giving yourself permission to invite all range of foods in there: crunchy, soft, sweet, hot and cold. So I'm going to have a variety of foods, and it's not based on whether it's good or bad. Understanding that food for comfort and pleasure it's also a good thing. It's okay for that to happen, right? And I'm not feeling shame or guilt, which what diet mindset does. And so this card deck specifically is really helpful. I really encourage folks to do it if they find value in some of the slides that we're looking at right now, and seeing the benefits of long-term and long-lasting benefits of attuned eating and losing or dropping diet mindset here.
I just kind of like, as we're talking about attuned eating versus diet mindset, and something that you mentioned to me that really impacted me, because the diet mindset is fear and the diet is in control, and attuned eating is trust and satisfaction, and I'm in charge. And it's like, man, I thought I was in charge on the diet though. Like that's really what I felt, because I'm deciding what I'm eating and what I'm not eating. I'm deciding how much exercise and all that stuff. So I really thought I was in charge. I felt empowered when I completed, or if I lose weight and I get my Dyna body, I thought I was in charge. But looking back and really seeing what attuned eating is versus diet culture, I was really just part of the diet culture, because the diet was literally in control. I had no control over it, or I would have had that breakfast burrito.
Yeah. You're just following the rules.
Yeah.
Right? And the rules that we've all been conditioned to be a part of. We've all been conditioned to it. So sometimes that can be helpful for folks to recognize that, like, hey, it's not just me that kind of fell into it. We all have. So it takes a lot of courage to kind of step back and to just really assess what's happening here in this particular moment. It takes a lot of courage and to adopt this type of mindset. Some call it radical to adopt this mindset, because you really are going against societal norms here.
Yeah. And I mean, even it can seem so simple, like when we're talking about it, like, oh, duh, I already knew that. But to understand how embedded the diet mindset is within me is like, whoa, like it is like going against societal norms, because all the things that we've gone through so far, like, I mean, just everything from our episodes about it is like, whoa, I didn't know how embedded that was in my mindset. And it is going against what society tells us. Or even, oh no, but the program I'm in, they told me that it's not so like even that, right? Because but they told me that this is lifestyle change. So it's not a diet. But I mean, just like to release some of those things, right? But it's like, I want to remain, like, you're just not, like you said, like sometimes we're just not ready to, like, I hear it, but I'm like,
I think we're sometimes not ready to unlearn. Well, I guess that was my story. And even before I even learned about like this concept of unlearning, that's really what it is. It's me literally unlearning all the things that I have been taught and made to believe. Right. And so now that I'm kind of unlearning, I have to now learn a new way of living, learn a new way of believing, that resonates with me, that will help me out long term.
Yeah. And you brought this up, and I do want to bring it up in this episode because I feel like it ties in really well. And that's the grieving process. Like, we
Yeah,
don't think of diet mindset or unlearning to learn something different as like grieving, because we think of grieving as like, I don't, someone passes away or something like that. But
yeah,
can you explain that grieving process, that there is a grieving process in this journey as well?
absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about journey. When folks talk about like, hey, I'm on a healing journey, when you were healing and you're unlearning and unpacking, you were letting go of something. You were letting go of a belief system, you're letting go of a thought, you're letting go of all these things, which can be really hard to do, right? Any healing comes with some grief, comes with some set of loss that takes place. I think this is where you hear like when people are like, hey, I'm on kind of a healing journey, like it's just hard. You may lose people, right? You may lose certain parts of yourself. And that's the same thing when it comes to grieving, when you are shifting your mindset and building a better relationship with food. And, again, dropping diet culture. I have some examples of what clients have shared with me, and even some things that I've have experienced too, of what did they leave behind when they learned how to kind of trust their bodies again? Again, adopting anti-diet mindset and attuned eating and things of that nature. So you're leaving behind, or you're grieving. Clients have shared grieving that, quote, they said, when I finally get that body I had or wanted, I'm letting that go. I'm maybe grieving that I won't get that body that I had. I won't get that Dyna body back. I won't get that body that I think I should, quote unquote, have. And that is a loss. That's a grief that I won't get there, right? There's a possibility that I won't get into that body, right? And also another thing folks have said is the comfort or control of routine and ritual eating can also be a loss too. If that was a part of your routine, if that was a part of your thing, and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to learn to listen to my body versus, nope, 5 o'clock I got to eat, 6 o'clock I got to eat, 12 o'clock I got to eat, right? There's a ritual that's there, or there's a routine that kind of happens in that particular space. That could be a loss for some people. Also, too, we mentioned this earlier, is that like leaving behind that no more praises for quote unquote getting healthy, right? And so I shared with you personally, I was like, I had lost a ton of weight earlier this year, and it was due to a medical issue. I lost probably about a good 20 pounds. And I don't know, I don't weigh myself anymore, but it was a lot. It was significant. And all of a sudden, it was, oh my gosh, Krystal, you're amazing. You look good. Or like, wow, you look, what are you on? I'm like, and even my wife was like, are you okay? Because she knows like kind of how I feel about that. It's like, I'm totally fine. I'm good. I was there too, but I lose that. I may lose those praise. And sometimes that feels really nice. You know what I mean? That someone's kind of looking at you and just like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. But I'm losing that because I may not lose weight again, especially that significantly anymore. I may just be in the body that I'm in right now. Yeah. And so I hope that helped. That was just some examples. Again, when you're healing, grief comes with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so I think it's important. And that was something, the grief part is something where I learned from a training, again, the Be Nourished training, that I was a part of. And they really highlighted that part of grief, and they kind of broke a lot of things down when it comes to like the acceptance and denial and things of that nature. So it was really helpful.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
And going along with grief as well, because maybe that was the only way when I was like, for instance, let's just say losing weight, I only received validation. That's the only part of my life that I was actually hearing like great things about myself, or people were telling me they're proud of me or they're happy for me, I look good. But every other area of my life, I'm not seeing value from others, right? I'm not getting it there. So like that's also part of the grieving process too, because this is what people see me as I'm the exercise, the weight loss, the diet person, whatever that looks like, right? And so that is a grieving process to know, and then that's a journey in itself, because I'm like, well, now I don't get praise for this anymore, and this is the only area people praise me in.
And now your worth kind of becomes dictated on your body.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I could just feel like how tough to have all that in my mind, embodying those thoughts. And it's like, whoa. And that actually makes me want to cry, but that is part of the grieving process. Like I'm feeling that right now. Mm-hmm. And so my question is too, like, so say I'm going into like, I'm getting out of diet mindset and someone's like, man, you look good. And it's based on my body. How can I present and invite someone, hey, I'm trying to move away from diet mindset. Like, how do I go about like, this is how I would ask you to speak to me, because it can also be triggering, like, oh, here it goes, your body. And it's like, oh, like that could be a trigger to even like my work on my journey. But it's like, hey, it's an invitation to like, I don't know, like, hey, here's a list. You want to pick something off this list that you want to? Hold on, I got it I have a screenshot. Don't worry.
I mean, I think you raise a good point. Maybe I can come back on again and talk about boundaries, because this is what it is. So one thing is that not a lot of people know that there's even a such thing as a diet mindset or anti-diet. They may have no clue about even what that even concept means. I think if someone is making a comment on your body that you're finding that, hey, this is not helpful for me, or you're on a journey of kind of rediscovering, unlearning, it can be very beneficial for you to maybe speak the language of saying that, like, hey, that comment is actually not helpful for me right now, or maybe just not helpful for me at all. And so, and leaving it as such, what could be helpful is maybe you just don't compliment on my body right now. I'm kind of really shifting my mindset on my worthiness associated to my body size or my body. So, really speaking from that language. And if you're recognizing that, hey, if there either is a resistance or a pushback, sometimes it will be. You have to really assess your own energy if you are open to communicating with people about where you're at in your journey. If they're coming into you with curiosity, well, what do you mean by that? Like, I never heard of that before. And if you have the energy and want to be able to present, this idea of a diet mindset or anti-diet and things of that nature, I say go for it. Right. Again, if people are willing and open to be able to do that. If you're recognizing that people are resisting or still don't have the capacity to honor that request or that request that you're saying, then you need to set up a boundary. And when I look at boundaries, I look at your behavior, not theirs. You can't control their behaviors. You can only control yours. Right. And so oftentimes we think boundaries are me saying something like, Michelle, please don't say that to me. That's not a boundary. That's a request, right? A boundary is more to do with me. So a boundary would be like, you know what? I no longer engage in conversations about body size with anyone. Or I no longer, I actually walk away from conversation. I will walk away from a conversation if you continue to talk about the way that I look. Right. So now you can keep doing you can keep talking about it, but I'm going to exit. Right. And so that's the boundary, right? That's the consequence. You can't talk to me. Right. And so this is just what it is. And so, hopefully that can be, again, a start in regards to it. But boundaries, it really does talk about that too, right? And also to you working on not only just yourself. We talk about this a little bit later about when other people are on their diets. What do you do when you're on a different space, right? I have family members that are like, that will constantly tell me that, like, yeah, like I gotta lose this weight, or no, I can't eat that, or because I'm going to get fat, or things of that nature. And you will sit there like, what do you mean? So if you're talking about your body and it looks like that, then you must be talking about mine too, right? In all the above. So working on, again, not personalizing it, understanding that they have their own body story, and that, if the person is open, or even if you have the energy to give people small doses of this mindset, like, hey, how are you talking to your body? How are you talking to yourself right now? I don't like it. I don't like that. I don't like how you're talking to your body like that. Hey, food does not necessarily have to be kind of on like a moral compass, small doses, don't have to, right? Hey, you want to go? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll hum it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything you just shared is like so true. Like how I respond, my boundaries, understanding people are on their own journey as well. And then, okay, so then what about, okay, I'm learning about diet mindset, letting it go. But what if I'm like, Krystal, but I want to lose weight? Like where I'm like it's still like, I want to lose weight. So like, where does that intersect with letting go when it's like, okay, I'm cool, I can eat whatever I want, but I still want to lose weight?
Well, I'm looking at something right now because I think this is something a little bit helpful. I think I want to say that it's normal, right? Especially if you are wanting to adopt the body mindset or body mindset, I'm sorry. Drop diet culture, or diet mindset, and still have this desire to want to lose weight. I would say it's completely normal. I have been there, and I think it's a consistent process. And I would say too that you're not alone, and it makes sense that you would, especially when we talked about like how the shifting away from diet mindset takes a lot of courage, and also some folks would call it like a kind of a radical view, because you're going kind of against the grain here. You're saying, no, I'm going through door B, but everybody at the party is in room A,
Yeah.
And so it makes completely sense. And one thing that I learned from this nutritionist on Instagram, oh my gosh, I forget what her name is, but she's freaking awesome. And she talks about it. And she says that it's one thing to have the desire versus actually acting on it, right? So that's one thing. So I may have the desire that I want to lose weight, but me acting on that particular thing, I have to be able to be mindful of the long-term effects that happen. So if I do act on it, then that means I'm going to get into a diet. And if I get into a diet, then that means that's going to set me up for either binge eating, restrict eating, rebounding, me feeling shame for myself, and things of that nature. So I have to really kind of remind myself on that. Also, too, some questions that I would ask is, when you find yourself feeling drawn to like another plan or restrictive eating or things of that nature, I really want you to ask yourself, I want you to notice what pulls you back in, right? What thoughts, what memories, what sensations, whose voice may be pulling you back in? What activates you right there that pulls you back in? Michelle, you mentioned like a couple times where it's like, hey, somebody said something. You're like, well, tomorrow I got to go on this diet. I got to do something, right? I knew personally what will pull me in is when I would come back, because my dad's really sick right now. And whenever I would come back from visiting my parents, I would instantly like freak out and I'd be like, I need to lose weight. I need to get healthy. I need to get in shape. I need to right. So I had to recognize what activated me, what really triggered me in those particular moments that pulls me kind of back into a space that I know is not helpful for me. So one, I have to notice that, right? Also to become aware of body checking behaviors that takes place, right? Are you familiar with body checking behaviors? Right?
No.
Body checking behaviors can look like getting on the scale, going into the mirror, pinching yourself, right? Looking at all of this particular things, having those particular thoughts saying that like, I'm not good enough, I'm not X, Y, and Z enough, anything like that. And so criticizing your body, right? You're kind of constantly checking your body all the time. And so just becoming aware of your behaviors in those particular moments. Also to helping you kind of like detach your worthiness from your body and how your body shows up into the world, right? Which is, I think, is really huge, right? And this is when I talk about kind of the grieving process, and part of the grieving, we get to a space of acceptance. And acceptance is not being preoccupied by what other people think. Size or the way my body is feeling right now is not going to be a reason for me to delay any type of activities or wearing something, you know? And also less reliant on external definition of what normal eating is. And I'm reading this off of some of the trainings that I've been into. So please read. I tell people The Body's Not an Apology, Anti-Diet. Those are all really, really great books to kind of talk about that a little bit. Body and Body Respect. That's also another good one. So yes, but it's very normal for that to happen. But please recognize, or when you start to notice, what kind of draws you back in to wanting to get back into a diet mindset. Again, desire versus action are completely two different things, and it's normal to want to do that. I've experienced that myself plenty of times when I was in the beginning of this particular journey of like, so but can I lose weight? And then recognizing, really assessing, when is it that I actually have that particular mindset? When does that actually come up for me? And when I notice kind of like the trigger of when that actually came up for me, then I'm able to work with that. Yeah.
So like in terms of this question that we have up on the screen, like how can we identify a trigger versus a reactive moment? So I know you kind of mentioned like your own triggers, but like how do you know the difference between a trigger and like the reaction? It's not the same.
Well, their triggers can be triggers can be something that is external a little bit. It can be a smell. It can be something that you see. It can be something that you touch. It can be something that you taste, right? Or that you hear. Any of those senses can formulate some type of impact into the body to where you get this sensation that comes up for you: fight, flight, or freeze, right? And fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah, that happens. That activates. That tells the body something's wrong. Get the fuck up out of there. Freeze. Run away, right? And so, or fight through it, you know? And so that response, how you were responding to what you see, what you smell, what you taste, that's kind of like the behavior. So my reaction could be me like constantly obsessing and trying to find the next diet. Me responding to it of me maybe shaking or something like that, or me freezing in those particular moments and I can't verbally say something. As pertains to kind of diet mindset, my behaviors is going on another diet, right? Like I'm reacting to the thing that has triggered me, and a trigger, again, all those particular different senses that happens. Again, it can be a smell that sets off an alarms in the body that says, oh no, mayday, mayday, mayday. There's a bear that's right in front of you. And how our body works, we need to protect it. Our body and our minds will be like, okay, what do we got to do to protect it? All right, so get on this diet, right? This is how it works. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much. And then when you were talking about the person on Instagram, was it the person that you sent me the video of, or was
Yep.
it somebody else?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's Abby Atwood Wellness. If you're on
Yeah.
Instagram,
Yeah.
that's
She's
her
awesome. Yeah, she's
at
awesome.
her handle,
The Black
Abby Atwood.
Nutritionist, she's a good one too. So she's a good she's a good one too to follow on Instagram. But yeah.
Woo! Well, Krystal, another amazing episode. I just feel like I'm just learning so much, and I'm so grateful for you and what you're sharing, because it is
Same.
opening my mind to the next level. And just creating like a new language and the mindset, because I mean, I love mindset. So okay, I have a question really quick, because
Yeah.
we're talking about letting go of the diet mindset. So like we were talking about, a request for a person, like if they're complimenting my body, and I'm like, say I don't want to say like I'm letting go of the diet mindset, like I am acquiring, like what's the opposite of that? Like what community am I saying like I am a part of? Like am I part of like health at all sizes? Like is there like a name, or like, because obviously diet mindset, it's diet mindset. Like I'm unlearning diet mindset. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
where am I going? If that
You're
makes
learning to
sense.
learn how to trust your body again. You're
I
learning
love
how to,
that.
right? That is,
Perfect.
yeah. Because that's
I'm learning
ultimately
how to
what you're
trust my
doing.
body again. I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
It's not going into another organization. It's not doing it that. I'm learning to trust me again. I'm learning to trust my body. I'm learning all of that. That's what I'm doing. That is the opposite of getting away from diet mindset. It's me.
I love that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So once again, thank you for another phenomenal episode of Therapy to Empower Hour. If there's anything that you want to share, anything like events, how to contact you, all that stuff, please share it right now.
Yes. So you can contact me on Instagram at therapist to yogi. You can contact me on TikTok at in.session. You can always email me at Krystal at therapytoempower.com. Currently, I am doing a journal challenge for the month of October for individuals who want to incorporate journal into their daily practice. And so we're currently doing that right now for the month of October. The month of November, I am going to be incorporating a meditation challenge. And so, yes, I will be doing that. So stay tuned. You can follow me on TikTok when it comes to that, talking about the benefits of meditation and stillness. And if you want to build that into your practice. And that's all I have. That's all I have right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And before you go, I want you to finish this sentence. I am proud of myself for.
I am proud of myself for finishing a sound healing training that I did this past weekend. I'm super excited about that, to incorporate more healing practices into the world and be of service to folks outside of being a therapist and a yoga instructor. Being a sound healer is something that I'm really, really proud of. Again, an additional service for the community, to use sound for meditation and using sound for helping with the triggers and reacting and responding a little bit differently. So I'm super proud of myself for incorporating that into it. I was resistant to do it for a long time. And then now I'm like, no, we're doing this, Krystal, and you are being drawn to it. Notice the resistance, identify why that was there. And then now we're going to lean into something that I know is viable for me and also for the community.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
yes.
you.
And I'm glad you stepped into it.
Yes, I am too.
Awesome. Can't wait to learn more about it. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Therapy to Empower Hour. Once again, go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, contact Krystal if you have any questions. She's a wealth of knowledge and very empowering as well. And treasure yourself and shine.
Bye.